From the Daily Wire, grade strike. Teachers withhold grades to protest Confederate monument. Yes, college is so valuable to young people in teaching them how to function in the real world, teaching them about a wide range of political perspectives, and teaching them how to get a career, that a school is instead allowing students to go and protest a statue. Congratulations. That's going to be really important when you're working at your tech job, when you're writing blogs about Brad Pitt's junk at your New York digital media outlet job. Oh, I'm sorry, those people are all being laid off. I don't know where you're going to work, because your liberal arts degree ain't going to get you a job. And I don't know what this is going to do to help you out. But I will say, if young people, instead of learning how to function, are being given passes to go and protest, we're going to have a lot of political activists in the future. And who's going to do any work? An economy can't be built off political activism. Although maybe if everything's replaced by robots, it's actually what we need to keep people preoccupied. So they say activists demanding the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill change their plans to house a Confederate monument in a campus building say teaching assistants and instructors have pledged to withhold more than 2,000 final grades unless their demands are met. This is teaching assistants and instructors threatening to withhold grades. So it's not even necessarily the student's fault, right? I think students go to school not expecting to be bludgeoned over the head with this nonsensical ideology, but the instructors, hey, they're bringing it about, huh? At least 79 teaching assistants and instructors have allegedly joined a grade strike to keep Chapel Hill from putting its Silent Sam monument in a campus center. A spokesman for the university could not verify the number of teachers or the number of grades withheld to a reporter for the Chronicle of Higher Education. On August 20th, 2018, protesters knocked over the Silent Sam statue, which was placed on campus in 1913 to memorialize the 300 alumni who fought in the Confederate Army. Wanting the statue removed was a noble act. Committing a crime to do so was not, as Daily Wire editor-in-chief Ben Shapiro wrote at the time. And Ben Shapiro said, "But it isn't good that people are destroying public property in a democracy without the law applying. When protesters tore down statues of Stalin in the former Soviet Union or Saddam Hussein in Iraq, they did so because there was no legal regime from which to seek redress. That simply isn't true in the United States. There's a case to be made for removing statues from public property by legislative act. But there's no case to be made for vandalism, which undermines the principles of actual democratic change. Mobs are not what democracy looks like." He's right, except I think it's fair to say that the law is kind of breaking down. And where does this come from? I made a video the other day where I talked about the various, it was about the regressive social dystopia we live in. And I think I've identified three issues that I think affect our loss of speech and our cultural breakdown. The first is moral outrage, then you have the law, and then you have advertising. And they're not necessarily in a circle, they interconnect with each other. What ends up happening is there's a moral outrage, right? And politics is downstream from the culture. The moral outrage may or may not be from a large group of people. It could be a tiny, tiny minority, a tiny vocal minority who says, I don't like this. What happens on Twitter is that people will see a slew of tweets at them saying, you're stupid for doing this. Like, let's say someone goes out and films themselves doing a backflip. They have 1,000 followers. They tweet out that video. 15 people tweet back, backflips are dumb, you're dumb. Now all of a sudden they see all of these messages coming in and they think, wow, everyone thinks I'm dumb for doing this. Not realizing it was a tiny minority of vocal activists who were telling you it was dumb, and most people probably didn't say anything. This is the reality of Twitter. You know, when I post a tweet, a lot of conservatives respond. And then liberals go, ho ho, look at all the conservatives in here. When in reality, I have liberal followers. In fact, there was one moment where a liberal follower popped in and said, actually, there are a lot of liberals who follow Tim. We just don't tweet, right? You're only seeing the activists of the right or the left. What ends up happening is people in advertising, they hear this outcry and they assume it must be what everyone wants. Then you see the law say, so then what happens with the advertising is when advertisements don't fund certain content, people stop talking about it. When people stop talking about it, the moral outrage expands because no one knows what else is going on, and then the law follows suit, and laws get enacted saying, okay, this is what the people want, when in reality, it was a tiny vocal minority. There's a saying, I can't remember the exact saying, but something like, don't believe that a small group of well-determined people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And a lot of people believe in that, and it is true. The problem is also true when evil, horrible people start trying to make change, because they can change things too. The reason I bring this up is that the people who are toppling the statue believe they are in the majority fighting against oppression, when in reality they're in the overwhelming minority. And in something like 80%, I don't know the exact number, but it's a huge majority that want the statues to remain. What ends up happening then is you have mobs going around destroying things, thinking they are doing the will of the people. You're not. This is not the will of the people. It's the will of you. Law makes sense, and Ben Shapiro was right. There is a system in place to get the statue removed. But the point I'm trying to make is that when these people believe there is no redress for getting this thing removed, they're technically right. Because what they're saying is democracy isn't going to help them because they're the minority. You get it? In Saddam Hussein's regime, in the Soviet Union, they toppled these statues because you couldn't do anything about it. Okay, so they did. Here with Silent Sam and these other statues that were torn down, they can't do anything about it either. Why? Because people don't want them to do it. So they defy the law to do so, thinking they're no different than the great revolutionaries of yesteryear. Well, you're not. Police were also allegedly told to stand down the night of the protests and allow students and activists to commit a crime according to emails and texts sent from Police Chief Chris Blue. 10 days later, police arrested 3 during follow-up protests. In the wake of the protest, the university agreed to keep the statue down, but planned to move it to a campus history center. New protests began last Monday in response to the school's plans, and activists pushed UNCTAs and faculty to withhold grading final exams or assignments for the fall 2018 semester until the Board of Trustees withdraw the proposal to spend $5.3 million to build a separate indoor location to house Silent Sam on UNC's campus and to create a 40-person mobile force at the tune of $2.2 million per year to police student protests. You know not. Here's what you should do. Yeah, don't give them the grades. If the teachers say we're not going to give them the grades, say okay. And the students won't graduate. There was something that happened a while ago. I don't know exactly where, but parents were freaking out and pulling their students out of colleges because the students were engaging in political activism and not getting grades. And the parents were like, "What are you doing? We're paying for this. You're paying for this so that when you get out of college, you can be successful. But if you spend all your time yammering about statues and not learning how to function or be a specialist in some profession, you're wasting time and money." That's bad. Man, could you, oh my God, dude, I gotta say this. Think about what our world's gonna be like in 10 years when these people are graduating, when they're working in places and they don't know how to function. I have worked with people who have never had real jobs before. I've hired people thinking, hey, you got a college degree, you can speak these languages, and it'll be great to bring you on to work in news, and they've never had a real job, so they sit there confused and scared, and they had to be fired. I kid you not. It is terrifying. When you bring people like this into the workforce, they can't function. They don't know how. It really is scary when you realize our industries are going to be looking for people to hire. What's going to happen to our economy? When these people are laden with debt and can't function, they're going to vote for socialism. And socialism is going to win. Maybe that was the strategy of these teachers. Say, hey, make sure these kids fail so that socialism happens. But I'll tell you what, no matter what kind of economy you have, you need good workers, you need skilled workers. And these ain't it. And I'll tell you what else is going to happen. There's going to be a vacuum. And then these companies are going to seek talent outside. American young people are being dumbed down. They have no skills. And then migrants are going to come in to replace them. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a problem for them. What are they going to do about it? They're going to be hungry and poor. These people are going around saying the American dream doesn't exist anymore. When people desperately try to come to the US, even risking their lives to do so, because in reality, the American dream, it absolutely exists. It does. The American dream was never to go to college to get a liberal arts degree so you can knock down statues, I'm afraid. The American dream was that you can save up sleeping in a closet so you can finally rent out your own storefront and work 80 hours a week so that you can have a family and put your kids through college so they can actually become productive. And when they get out, they'll make good salaries. Unfortunately, for a lot of these people who pursued that, maybe part of the American dream did die insofar that I have known people who have worked 80 hours a week, the legal maximum when I worked for American Airlines, so they could give every penny to their kids to go to college. And now it saddens me to think that they may have invested that money into sending their kids to a school where they won't learn anything, and they'll waste their time talking about knocking over statues instead of trying to figure out how to build computer chips. Because it seems like that's becoming the reality of college, complete and utter nonsense. So they have some demands apparently. The demands are Silent Sam never returns to campus, even through a center to its memory. The Board of Trustees explain what the new campus policing policies are and withdraw those new policing policies pertaining to intelligence gathering and protest management and the mobile force. Reallocate the money that would be used for the mobile force and Silent Sam to increasing the wages for graduate and campus workers, including dental insurance for graduate workers, and reduce parking fees for graduate and campus workers. And those are their demands. And I want to point out, we don't need the statue. By all means, vote to have it removed and then put it in a museum. But I certainly think it's important we don't forget the past. And it seems like a lot of these activists don't understand that when you forget the past, you are doomed to repeat it. But that's what they're going to do. And then they're going to graduate college, and they're going to have no viable skills, and they're going to be desperate and hungry, and they're going to go to the government and say, why aren't you giving us food? Welcome to your future. It's coming, unless something is done about it. And of course it won't, because no one's going to do anything. Everyone's self-serving for the most part, and they're going to serve themselves. And they're going to avoid this and say, hey man, I'm going to stick to my business and do my thing. And there you go. Welcome to the end of days. I mean, look, we'll live on. I'm not saying the end of days, like the world's going to end, but it's not going to be fun. No more moon missions, I'm afraid. Anyway, more videos to come. Stick around, and I will see you in a few minutes.